she might have us muted, but we can't hear her.
Start video.
No. Oh, you can do that, but because the host has stopped it, so she's got to
I just see mute up there.
I would call her back, or if I know she's on,
Okay, yeah.
she'll hopefully answer. And I don't know why you're not seeing everybody else.
Let me see if I'm. I started.
Yeah, okay. Can we? Well, we can't.
Right now it says we can't put video on for Neil, and we're not seeing anybody else but just you.
I'm gonna make a co-host. No, that's how the webinar is set up. It's just not to see everybody because if there's hundreds.
Got it.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
So just get the
If you
So
want
you're
to,
now a co-host.
the co-host. Okay, we're gonna start video then. Hang on. Ah,
Hey,
got it.
Carrie.
dang.
Awesome.
Thanks, Rob.
okay, now I want to make sure we can hear because we can't hear Kat
I can hear you, Kat. Now.
on the phone. We can,
Oh.
but we couldn't on the
Oh,
computer.
oh yeah, Kat. Yeah, we can't hear you, Kat.
Are your speakers up?
They're up.
Okay, hold on.
I saw a mute somewhere.
Hold on. Let's just make sure they.
I can hear you guys. Can you hear
Oh,
me?
there we go. Got it. Now we got you. too.
All righty.
Thanks, Rob.
Thanks,
Thank
Rob.
God for
Yes.
technology help. Yeah,
It's-
yes, I see it there. Thank you.
Okay.
Awesome, awesome. So good to see you guys on. I see a lot of familiar faces. Thank you for your patience. We have so much good stuff for you today. I am really excited to share. I think it's going to really help a lot of you as trainers and
Yeah.
nutrition coaches. And
Let me
Yeah.
introduce today, Kat, since
Okay,
you're the one.
go
You're
ahead.
Kat is definitely the speaker today. I am an innocent bystander, mainly because I'm not female, and I have not experienced all the same life stages that females go through. Right? I have by proxy with my daughter and with my wife and with the people in my life. And all the people that I have worked with, I mean, literally thousands and thousands of people I've worked with as a trainer, working with people in weight loss and everything else. But you have to live it, right? And I'm that guy that, without a doubt, you don't talk about something that you haven't experienced all the way. So Kat, as you all know, is our executive vice president of nutritional services and also our corporate dietitian extraordinaire. And a mother, obviously, and also a fitness person, and been involved with working with so many different people on so many different levels. So there's probably nobody perfect to talk about women's health, because you can hear it from other perspectives, but you got to hear it from one that has covered the whole spectrum, from childbirth to youth as an athlete, as a youth athlete herself, and then going through the fitness, going through the trials and tribulations of menopause and all the things that women go through. We can talk about it all we want, we can study it all we want as guys, but if you don't go through it, it's a different perspective. So anyway, that's why I wanted to introduce her, and she's going to be talking to, obviously, the most part. I will once in a while chime in when there's something that I might know, I might have a little different, not perspective, but I'll have some information on that she doesn't need to cover, right? Even though she knows it, obviously, but I'm just saying it'll be something that I might be able to comment on. So we'll get started with that. So anyway, Kat, I'm turning it over to you.
Thank you. So, yes, I have gone through menopause, but we're going to have to talk about that a little bit later. So let me share my screen so we can get started here. Okay, so everybody see it? Just shoot me a note. Neil, can you see the screen? You guys can always
I can see it perfectly.
chime
I can see it perfectly.
on the chat. Okay, so here we go. Nutrition for women. And by the way, I feel like we could do a several part series on this. So we sort of had to pick and choose what we were going to cover, but we are going to follow it up with a nutrition for men segment as well, in which I will chime in with Neil on that. So here we go. So content to be presented, nutrient needs for females across the lifespan. We're going to obviously talk about nutrition and the impact that diet and health, your health risks and symptoms during menopause. Then we'll talk about changes in metabolism. I know as trainers, we get lots of, questions about how our metabolism flows and then the implications on weight loss. And then finally, we'll wrap it up with some muscle health and aging since we are in fitness. Okay, so let's go. The life stages of a female, as you can see depicted here in the graph, you can look at it a couple different ways. And the first has to do mainly with reproduction and raising babies, right? So obviously we've got the youth stages of infancy, childhood, and adolescence. And then we move into the reproductive stage, pregnancy and lactation, which of course is breastfeeding. And then finally, the last third of our lives, we're in what's called the post-reproductive stage, midlife, as well as late adulthood. So once again, from a female perspective, we can look at it from that stage in terms of raising babies. And then the second thing would be to look at it from the aspect of physical development and how the body changes in regards to bone mass, muscle, strength, functionality, fat mass, and of course, inflammation, which we're learning a lot more about nowadays. So you can see with the growth phase, what's going on here. Osteogenesis refers to bone formation, myo is muscle, adipogenesis is fat formation. So you see that during growth, all of that is happening at a rapid rate. And the little key at the bottom, go ahead.
Oh, no, I'm going to say, well, you know what I love about this chart? I was looking at this earlier, everybody, when Kat sent everything over to me here. It really, when you look at everything to the right of 30 years, that's all new in the last few hundred years of human existence.
Yeah.
That's all new. So we're still trying to figure it out. How do we live better longer? Because everyone died in their 20s, you know, and way before that. You know, most people died even before that for the first, you know, first couple million years as hominids here on Earth. So this is really a great chart that kind of explains things that we're still discovering. Go ahead, sorry.
No, that's okay. And that's a really good point, because, you know, the last third of our lives past 60, you can see it's called the declining phase, right? Where it's now, you know, muscle mass and bone, et cetera. It's all, you know, it's sort of end of life, if you will. But there's lots of different ways that we're going to talk about to help stave off that and maintain functionality and high quality of life, like Neil's been talking about with PlaySpan. So I'm going to just go through really quickly nutrient needs of young females, and based on life stages. I included the RDA, which stands for Recommended Dietary Allowance. We'll talk a little bit more about that as we go. But essentially, you know, during youth, when females start their period, their menstrual cycle, you know, now you're going through rapid growth and development in terms of sex organs. And then you've also got the risk of iron deficiency as you shed uterus and as you lose blood every single month. And we know that, you know, it's a crucial time for young women to get enough iron. And you also have rapid bone development. And we know that you're going to be building bone. You only have a short window, you know, up until late 20s, latest 30s. And so you're going to want to maximize your bone development. Now, as you get ready to conceive, if you choose to do so, the B vitamin folic acid becomes very important in terms of neural tube development, healthy baby, healthy DNA replication and formation. And we know that folic acid supplementation, of course, helps to reduce neural tube defects. And of course, in preconception, as you expand your blood volume, you're going to have to get adequate iron, and that's going to lower your risk for miscarriage, low birth weight, and of course, birth defects. So other key nutrients for bone health throughout the life stages, I should say, calcium, magnesium, vitamin K, vitamin D, those are all key. And then I put a little asterisk next to the ones that are nutrients of concern. And they're nutrients of concern among scientists and nutrition experts because they're widely underconsumed in the population and particularly are important for women, which you'll understand more as we go. For growth, development, and pregnancy, once again, iron, pregnant women fall short, and then choline, which is a new one that Neil will talk about as we go along. It's a B-like vitamin. It's essential nutrients, not classified as a vitamin because the body can make small amounts, but you need it, especially during early brain development and pregnancy needs, as you can see to the right. You know, it's higher during pregnancy and even higher during lactation as baby develops. So key nutrient there as well.
Yeah,
do you want to add anything on choline?
Which is why we added choline to all of our multivitamins, because it is one of the listed, like as you have your asterisk there, underconsumed. But most importantly is prenatal. And that's because prenatals, I think I looked at a stat, I think less than 5% of all the prenatals on the market, that includes practitioner products that are prescribed, do not contain choline. And that's only because it doesn't work very well when you're putting in all the other vitamins and minerals. We were one of the very few, we're the only one, as you probably know already, that was able to get choline into our new multivitamin minerals. And that's a difficult thing to stabilize it and make that happen. But it's that important, not just for the person taking it. It is for, again, as Kat's point here, is development for the child early on in the womb.
Okay, so other key nutrients for women in this country, you've got your, antioxidant sort of vitamins and minerals with antioxidant activity, along with potassium, which helps with healthy blood pressure, and then dietary fiber. Most people aren't getting enough dietary fiber, as well as an array of fruits and vegetables. Plenty of stats around the amount of people who don't get enough, right? Which is captured here in the dietary guidelines for Americans, which, dietitians like myself, we love looking at this because we want to know what people are eating, right? We already have a sense, but in terms of the population, what are people eating? So the way you look at this graph is orange is not good, right? So, and blue is more optimal. So you can see most people are not getting fruits, vegetables, total grains, dairy, protein foods, and healthy fats, right? And then most people are getting too much of your added sugars, your saturated fats, and your sodium. And then, of course, not getting enough of your nutrient-dense foods, right? And not limiting the other, empty calories, if you will. So Americans are not eating well. And so it's not surprised to see a graph like this, which we've shared lots. Neil talks about this a lot in all of his lectures. And we just basically took the data and we graphed out the percentage of the US population not meeting the RDAs of select vitamins and minerals. And RDA is what we're trying to achieve. It's the recommended dietary allowance. Scientists define that as the intake that meets the needs of most of the population, 98% of healthy individuals for their particular life stage and their gender. In this case, we're talking about women. So it's rampant in terms of the nutrients that people are not meeting recommended levels of. And of course, if you don't do that, then you constantly fall short, and that takes a toll on the body.
Yeah, and then one thing about
right?
the RDAs versus what she's going to show you next, which is the estimated average intakes. So when you look at this chart, understand this, that anybody that's not taking a complete multivitamin mineral, I'm talking about one that contains all the known underconsumed, is going to be in it anywhere from 3 to every one of these categories. So don't let this deceive you by saying, well, there's only 31% low in copper. Well, that's not me. Well, maybe it's not you, but you're the one that's on calcium. You're the one low on calcium. You're the one on vitamin C. So understand that's what this is. So food alone just can't get it done. It's virtually impossible, certainly within the calories that allow you to stay lean. But just keep that in mind when we talk about the RDA, which is, again, as you can see down here, that's what we strive for to be able to keep the whole population, at least the vitamins and minerals that they need to make things happen properly in the body. Doesn't mean you're going to live longer. It just means the quality of life is going to probably be better per decade if you're making that up all the way around. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, good. So now that we know most people aren't getting enough of around 17 to 19, like Neil said, of vitamins, and of course there's over 30, right? We can even dig deeper, and we see, based on the US population data, that there's certain nutrients that are grossly underconsumed. And that is, it's below the SEAR, the EAR is what we call estimated average requirement. And that's the intake level that meets the nutrient needs of half of healthy individuals. So that means that it's a problem, right? That's why we put an asterisk next to those things. And it's related to chronic disease. We did a masterclass on micronutrients last year, which I advise you to go watch, because we go a little bit more into depth in those. So just really quickly, how do we meet our needs? How do we actually get enough of these key nutrients? Calcium, we already know, is key through all phases of development. And so there are great sources in dairy. Dairy is the best source. And then there, of course, sardines, yum, yum, I don't eat them, and leafy greens, right? Females, you have your highest needs during growth and development between 14 and 18, right? At 1,300 milligrams, and then it goes down a little bit to 1,000. And then after you over 50, which is when menopause hits, you need more again, which I'll explain. So approximately 3 servings will get the job done. Sometimes it won't if you're a vegan or vegetarian, because bioavailability and they're less rich sources. So I always say, you know, meet these needs. You don't want to mess around with your bone health, because you can't feel your bones getting weaker. It doesn't like, you don't notice it happening. You only notice it if your bone breaks, right? So don't mess around, reach your daily levels. And if you're missing, fill that gap. So 500 milligrams at a time to maximize absorption. Of course, our formulas contain the cofactors, because all these vitamins and minerals are synergistic. They work together. Calcium requires magnesium and vitamin D, right, to maximize absorption. Of course, other bone building nutrients like vitamin K and phosphorus are also important. So you want to get 3 servings and at least per day, and then fill the gaps if you need to. What do we know about current intakes in our population? That, you know, half of the population is not getting enough through food. And the survey data shows us that there are certain people that like really underconsume, like kids, like adolescents, like women, like pregnant women and older adults. And you can see by the graph here, once again, taken from the dietary guidelines. To the right is females. You know, blue is what we should be getting. Orange is what we're not, is what we're actually getting. So we're far below what we need to be for males and females. But females are at special risk because of our hormones. Okay, iron requirements and sources. So you need iron for a lot of things, to transport oxygen, right? So, and not just that, but it's also got antioxidant properties. It also plays key in the immune system. And adolescent girls are below the ear. Remember, the EAR is way bad. It's way below the RDA. Women are deficient. Of course, your doctor would have to prescribe you extra iron along with your prenatal vitamin. And premenopausal women also fall short. Now, interesting, right? Regular exercise, intense exercise, increases your requirements for iron. And that's because you've got, you know, more capillaries, more blood volume, you know, more recycling of it happening. So, you know, you've got to know the difference between also heme and non-heme iron. Heme is in animals, non-heme is in plants. You don't absorb as well through plants. So you've got to be, you know, wary and aware of that.
And the reason you don't absorb it as well through plants, everybody, just so you know, the animal eats the plant and they convert it for us to heme iron. So we eat the animal and we get the heme iron pure. And so that's the differences. And that's one of the problems. And just to, very quickly, you know, with all these people going vegan, and I'm not knocking it because I love the environment and it's great for the environment and all those things, but it is difficult to get what you need because it's not natural at all, obviously, for the human being to go vegan. So, you know, you do have to be very careful what you pick, because we do not absorb those nutrients from vegetables nearly as well as we do from animal products. I've already converted it to something we can use because we are animals. So just want to reminder there when it comes to that. But you can easily meet your requirements vegan. It's just a little more difficult.
Yep, it definitely is, and which is one of the reasons why it was added to grain products. So let's move on. So magnesium, how to meet daily needs with magnesium. Well, magnesium, you know, we can talk days about what magnesium does and how important it is in the body in terms of, you know, it helping with DNA synthesis, ATP utilization, but you're going to want to eat a variety of whole grains, especially green leafies, nuts, and seeds. Those are your best sources of them. And then for females, you know, it goes higher during adolescence and then it slightly lowers during adulthood, but most people don't get enough. Another nutrient of concern. And then if you're pregnant, you know, it slightly increases your needs by 40 milligrams per day, whereas lactation does not. Again, another widely underconsumed nutrient involved in over 300 reactions in the body. So choline, we talked a little bit about it already. You're going to want to get animal sources for the most part is where choline resides, in eggs and in meat, and it's an essential nutrient for brain development, which is why needs are higher in females during pregnancy and during lactation. Another nutrient of concern, like we said. Now, to Neil's point about vegan and vegetarian diets, I thought this was interesting as I was doing research and putting all this information together for you guys. Women are twice as likely than males to follow a vegan or vegetarian dietary pattern, which, you know, is sort of confounding because we're already at higher risk of certain nutrient insufficiencies. But then if you're going to go vegan, you got to be even more vigilant about meeting your nutrient needs, especially for calcium, vitamin D, iron, and, you know, iodine, B12, choline, and your omega-3 fish oils. So your plant milks, you know, I put milks in quotations because I got this pet peeve with calling a fluid from a nut or a plant a milk, because milk is made from mammals, but fine. Plant milks, right? You want to look for fortification with calcium and vitamin D. And of course, pay attention to protein, because there's hardly any protein in your plant milks aside from soy. So, and it's also going to be lower in iodine, because iodine is primarily in, you know, from animals and animal products. So how do you actually increase your needs of these key micronutrients? Through fortified grains, like iron fortified cereals, through a lot of different legumes, right? Nuts, seeds, dried fruits, leafy greens, especially to get those iron needs met, like Neil was talking about, right? The animals do the work for us, but if you're not eating the animals, then you're going to have to be especially vigilant. Okay, now transitioning into menopause, right? This is probably a very, very common question that we get around menopause and how the female body changes. Well, as you can see, based on this infographic here, you know, you're going to spend about females spend a third of their lives in menopause. And so what actually is it? Well, there are different stages, right? Premenopause is defined as you know, a year of not getting a period, just 12 consecutive months. So that signals the end of fertility, not being able to have any more kids. And the average age is 51 in the United States. And in perimenopause, which is around 4 years prior to menopause, you're going to see estrogen levels start to vary, right? Just like the graphic shows. You're going to see hormones begin to fluctuate. And then early menopause is defined as between 40 and 45 years, which is around what I experienced. And then premature menopause occurs before 40, which is not very common. Around 1% of women experience premature menopause. Now, this is where we get into the fun stuff, right? The symptoms. So as the graphic shows, in perimenopause, less is the lighter, the green, yellow, and then they intensify during menopause with hot flashes or hot flushes, as you read in the research. And then postmenopause is when you get, you know, the symptoms sort of subside, I should say, and osteoporosis and heart disease, you know, all of those things, all the risk increases during postmenopause. So, you know, things like hot flashes, night sweats, flushes. I think I have some stats around the percentage or prevalence of people who experience these symptoms. 3/4 of women experience, you know, hot flashes. 40% have sleep problems, and then, you know, a small portion of women have mood disturbances like anxiety and depression. And I just want to say to all the females out there that are going through this, that, you know, it doesn't last forever, for one, and that if you do have sleep problems and mood disturbances, anxiety and depression, you know, get help. Like, get help for that, because there are therapeutics that can help you get through this stage, and it does not last. It does not last forever. Okay, so there are things we can do. That's the good news, to help alleviate some of the symptoms. But I want to help you to understand some of the physiological changes that are occurring in the body. And we know that estrogen is cardioprotective, right? It protects our heart. It is heart health enhancing, if you will. And that's because our ovaries, our reproductive organs, use LDL, which is the bad cholesterol, to make estrogen, right? So the body uses it in order to regulate our hormone levels. But during menopause, when estrogen decreases, well, what's that going to lead to? That's going to lead to less bad cholesterol being utilized, which means there are higher levels in circulation, which then increases risk of heart disease. And I saw this in all my lab work. As I monitor my lab work, I see my LDL start to inch up a little bit. Luckily, I have really high HDL, good cholesterol, and my total is slightly higher than ideal, but I experience it as well, and I'm a regular exerciser, and I think I eat pretty well. So in addition to our changes in LDL cholesterol, we know that there's changes in fat metabolism because estrogen helps the fat metabolic processes in cells, primarily in the mitochondria of your cells, which is the powerhouses where you oxidize fat. And so lower estrogen levels downregulate the genes in fat metabolism. So there are changes. And then also as estrogen levels decrease, you get this relative shift in testosterone, right? Because all humans have both female and male hormone levels. Obviously, we have higher estrogen and lower testosterone, but when your estrogen decreases, your testosterone relatively increases. And so what does that result in? That results in fat redistribution to our abdominal region. And I like to call that nature's life preserver. I've seen other people call it that because it's sort of like nature's way of saying, okay, you're not producing estrogen anymore. Let's store your fat around your midsection because estrogen is secreted by fat cells. So it's sort of the body's way of trying to help us survive. Well, we know that estrogen helps females be females, right? It directs your fat stores to your glute in your thigh areas, which is one of the reasons why females have that sort of more hourglass figure, because we carry our fat there. Whereas men, where do men store their fat? They store it more in their abdominal region. So when you have a lower levels of estrogen, higher relative increase in testosterone, you're going to get midsection weight gain. You're going to experience belly fat as you age, right? It's not an inevitable process, but it is a sort of shift if you are gaining weight of where that weight goes, right? Of where that weight goes. It doesn't mean you're going to inevitably gain weight. Okay. All right. So that's what happens in terms of body composition. Now there are other things that's happening. Did you want to add something to that, Neil? I sort of
no. You cleaned it up. You cleaned it up right at the end perfectly. Which means that
I had to.
Listen, we all know older ladies that have had exactly that hormonal change that happens that don't store any fat in their abdominal region. And that's because they don't eat too many calories compared to what they move. It's just what happens is if you do, and you said it perfectly, if you do gain weight, you're going to gain it somewhere else now. That's what it comes down to. Okay. And
absolutely.
And nothing more than that. So that's just keep that in mind because it does get redistributed, just like by the way, guys too, right? I'm finding it in different places now on my bad weeks, right?
Yeah. And it's interesting, we talk about this, but it's interesting as we go through the lifespan, how the body does change. But good point. I'm glad you reiterated that, Neil, because it's not like you're destined to have belly fat, right? Because you go through menopause. It's just a different place you store it. And the methods of losing it are the same, right?
That's right.
As we always talk about. Okay, so estrogen also helps remodel bones. So as you can see, estrogen plays a lot of roles in the human body. And so when you have lower levels of estrogen as they decrease, well, that decreased activity in osteoclasts. And osteoclast is what breaks down bone, whereas osteoblasts are what build up bone. So higher osteoclastic activity means you're going to be, recycling or losing more bony tissue, leading to more porous bones. So if you have a higher bone density at the onset of menopause, well, obviously that's going to decrease your likelihood of developing weak bones or porous bones. And then we also know because of estrogen and declines in estrogen across the lifespan that women experience osteoporosis more than men do. Men still do experience it, but much less. It is the leading cause of fractures in older adults. And you don't want to fracture your hip because the mortality is super high if you do. And it's not necessarily the weak bone, it's the related infections and dysfunctions that occur as a result. So those are some of the changes in terms of bone. Let's get into some nutritional guidelines. How can we prevent, right? How can we mitigate some of these symptoms? So we know that we don't need iron. It's lower requirement for iron because we're not menstruating. We're not losing blood anymore every single month. And so you want to switch over to the over 50 multivitamin with menopause. Even if you're not 50. So for me, I, experienced menopause before I turned 50, but I'm not having a period anymore. So even though I'm younger than 50, I use the over 50 anyways, because I don't need the extra iron. You're going to have an increased requirement for calcium and vitamin D to maintain bone density. These are underconsumed nutrients. As we know, 1,200 milligram is the target, as opposed to 1,000 milligrams before menopause, and then 1,000 international units of vitamin D around there is what you're gonna need. But you really do want to get your blood tested for the ideal dosage. You want your doctor to test your blood, see where you're at, and then titrate it according to what your blood levels are at. Now the vitamin D, I mean, it's too low in my opinion. Neil might argue with me, but I think it's too low. I mean,
totally
it's just,
agree. Totally agree.
Yeah. So, and I think it's going to change. I sort of call, people being vitamin D insufficient or deficient sort of the secondary pandemic, if you will, because so many people are short in vitamin D. And even the International Osteoporosis Foundation, they put out a position statement and they recommend that older individuals get higher than the RDA, 800 to 1,000, right? And that to raise blood levels above 30 nanograms per milliliter, which is where you want to be, you're probably going to need more, 1,500 to 2,000 international units a day. And which is one of the reasons why Neil changed our formulas years and years ago to include vitamin D in all of the multivitamins. So
we were the very first.
Most people again are short.
We were the very first to put 1,000 IUs into a multivitamin. No one had ever done that before because we were just way ahead of the curve back in the back around 2004. And now, of course, we're superstars for doing it. But to your point, Kat, you still may need an extra supplement on top of that, which is why we came out with the vitamin D as a separate supplement, especially our athletes, because they want them at 40 nanograms. Your top sports nutritionists in the world, they want them at 40 nanograms. And that's impossible to get there without supplementing. Totally. I don't care what you eat or how you eat or how much sunshine you get, you're not going to get there. So that's one of the reasons we had to do it.
And to your point, I was looking at my blood levels, I was the same way. I can maintain 30 around consuming around 2,000 international units a day with a vitamin and vitamin D, but I want to get to 40. And so last time I got my blood levels tested, I was at 38. And so I upped mine recently to 4,000 international units a day. But so how do you know which multivitamin to take in order to reach all your micronutrient needs? Well, you can sort of see the way it's laid out here. Neil, why don't you speak to this? This is your baby. You've been studying vitamins and minerals forever, so go ahead.
This is definitely my baby, and I will argue against anybody in the world that this is the most comprehensive formulation you'll ever get as far as a complete what we need for not just the known underconsumed, but the unknown underconsumed. Right? There's things we don't know we're missing because if it's not in the soil and it's not, that means it's not in the plant. And if you ate that plant from that area, which you could have, right? You could have gotten from Florida versus California, you didn't get the nutrient. So again, that's so known and unknown. So we really cover the whole thing here. So the kids here from 2 to 11, right? You're taking 1 from 2 to 4, and then from 4 to 11, you're taking 2. And that's all on the labels and everything else. But you'll never find a kid's multi like that. That's why you put it in a chewable. Everybody goes, why did you put it in a gummy? Because gummies don't work. You can't put more than a couple, and they're not stable, and they're useless after about 2 weeks. So they're a joke. They're good marketing, horrible science. Okay. But anyway, bottom line is we got that in there with the choline and everything else. So the perfect formula. And then the active now, everybody switches to that. You take 1, all male and female, from 12 to 17, you take 1. 18 to 65, you take 2. If you are now, all males will take 2 to age 50. If you're an active, competitive female athlete with prolonged, intense exercise workouts, regular, then you would continue taking. You would take 2 of these. You would move into that group. So the women's is really for the vast majority of the females we work with, and that's because they're active, but they're not very active. They're not working at 7 days a week, 3-hour workouts, because there's a size difference. It was about 10% between male and female, and that size difference is mainly fat-free mass, like muscle. So males definitely need more vitamins and minerals than females on the average. But keep this in mind, just because it says one women's, it doesn't mean that it's like half an active. It's very close to what the active is, but it takes 2 actives to be able to get that much. I can't put it all in one, right? So the women's is pretty much for all ladies that are listening right now, is pretty much for all of you, unless you're competing at a high level and still training at like a crazy amounts. The women's has everything you need. All right, now, and you would keep that up if you're still competing until 65 for men and women. And then you would stay with the active. Over 50 is for every average person, average exerciser even, once they turn 50. You will take the 50, male and female, all the way around, like a cat is now, like I am now, all of those things, okay? And then the vegan is, of course, obviously, nothing was extracted from an animal source. That's in there, and 1 a day. It's good, it's big enough size. I got enough stuff in there to solve all that. So there you have it.
Okay. So that to help, again, to Neil's point, complete multivitamin spectrum of underconsumed nutrients, low dose, right? And they all complement all the other products if you're taking something else like a calcium or anything else like that. Okay, so more nutrition guidelines, dairy products, right? Dairy is a great source of key essential nutrients. I know that in some circles it gets a bad name. To me, it's crazy because it's one of the most complete foods you'll find on the planet. And in a study of 746 postmenopausal women, you're going to see, or use in this particular study, significant higher bone density in women who ate more dairy and animal protein.
And your kids, just very quickly, you guys have heard me say this a million times in all my lectures, especially the sports nutrition lectures. Kids that stop drinking milk fracture 8 times more than otherwise. And listen, I'm not promoting milk or dairy. There's other ways to get calcium and vitamin D. Absolutely. But you've got to get your calcium and vitamin D while you're growing up, or bad things are going to happen, and then you're going to stop moving, and then the rest is history. Okay. So just keep that in mind.
Absolutely. And I saw that too, working with NBA players, just higher fracture rates in these kids that should not be fracturing their bones, right? They should not be. Okay, so also in menopause, you're going to want to get enough fiber. A lot of, again, LDL is elevated. What we know that fiber can counteract elevated cholesterol due to its soluble components that can bind with it. And you want at least 14 grams per 1,000 calories, at women 21 to 25 grams per day in general. And the average intake is right around 14 to 15 grams a day. So most people are definitely not getting enough, particularly oats and barley. 3 servings a day has been shown to decrease risk of heart disease and stroke by 20%. And it's rich in beta glucan, a soluble fiber that binds bad cholesterol. We've also added that to Lean MR. So it's very important that you're getting what you need. And that's one of the reasons why we added it to Lean MR, is because of what it can do for you health-wise. Legumes, another underutilized food group. If you're following paleo, you don't eat this, which you're missing out a lot. It helps to lower cholesterol, increase fiber and protein. If you replace some of the refined grains, the highly processed grains in your diet with some legumes, you're going to see a decreased risk of heart disease, and it also supports weight loss. Half a cup a day is not that much to help lower LDL cholesterol.
And remember, people who lived in the paleo era died in their 20s and their teens.
I knew you were going to bring that up.
Enough said.
Darker greens, berries, and other fruits and veggies for fiber and antioxidants. I know you know this, but just the nutrient component of food is just so key. We need all this stuff, like the pectin in fruit. Again, fruit, the fiber in fruit. People avoid fruit because they think the sugar is bad for you. Please don't avoid fruit because you're afraid of sugar. That's really, really silly. There's so many components that are even still being discovered that have health beneficial properties. As well with menopause, let's continue. Lean protein.
There's never a day, Kat. Hang on, I got to open it up.
Yeah.
I'm not eating fruit. Okay, I got a whole bowl right here for as soon as I get done with this.
Same. It sparks joy when I eat my berries in the morning. Every single day. It makes me a little happy. So lean protein to support muscle, bone health, and metabolism. We know that higher protein diets are linked to better bone health, not the opposite. right? There's some myths out there about, protein and bone health. Those all have been refuted, widely refuted. Protein also has the highest thermic effect of food. You're going to burn 20 to 30% of the calories in protein just by eating it, right? As opposed to carbs, which is right around 8%, fat right around 1 to 2% thermic effect. So replacing some of your fat or carbs with protein in your diet can up your total calorie burn or your energy expenditure. We also know that higher protein reduces appetite and hunger. So that will help mitigate weight gain and or help you lose weight, and increasing, like I said, increasing your intake from 15 to 30% helps women consume fewer calories. How about that, right? That's one of the reasons why higher protein diets have shown to be better than lower protein diets in weight loss, because of its effect on appetite and reducing intake, as well as the thermic effect of feeding. Okay, you need fat. Fat is essential, right? You need healthy fats from oily fish. Healthy fats help lower inflammation, decrease risk of cardiovascular disease, and also help increase your good levels of cholesterol. So we always recommend, you'll see this everywhere where we teach, 8 ounces, at least 8 ounces weekly of fish. Neil eats plenty of fish because he likes to eat sushi. I eat less than him, but you're going to want to at least get 600 to 1,000 milligrams a day of both those fatty acids, EPA and DHA, if you're not consuming fish on a regular basis. I know a lot of people don't. They don't like it. Maybe they're allergic, whatever the case. But your body requires these nutrients. You want it to be steamed or baked, not fried. And then, of course, if you're a vegan or vegetarian, you're going to want to go for things like flaxseed, chia, walnuts. But those are not going to take you to the recommended beneficial levels of EPA and DHA in your body. So we recommend getting maybe an algae oil supplement to raise your body's levels of EPA and DHA. Fortunately, we don't make one right now. Hopefully we will in the future, right, Neil?
We just need a bigger demand so I can make enough of them to get the price down and it's affordable, right?
Exactly. So now a lot of women want to know, what about my hot flashes? What can I do to help with hot flashes? Well, soy isoflavones have been shown to alleviate hot flashes and also have beneficial effects on cholesterol. Why? Because they have a similar structure to estrogen, specifically estradiol. So they're also called phytoestrogens because they have estrogen-like properties. And if you look at the research, a meta-analysis of 10 studies showed that phytoestrogens significantly reduce frequency of hot flushes. We call them hot flashes, but in the research they call them flushes, which is more accurate. The average intake in our country is really low. It's like 1 milligram per day, where you'll see a significantly higher population in Asian countries where fewer symptoms are experienced. And if you ask Asian women, a lot of them don't have a term for a hot flash. Like they don't know what you're talking about because they don't experience them. And it has to do with their diets, their native diets.
And it's interesting because PMS was actually a term that was actually came about in the United States because Asians didn't even know what it meant.
Yeah.
Because their diet was so different,
Right. Yeah. So some benefits there. I was fortunate enough to not experience hot flushes or hot flashes. And I do think it's related to diet. Some genetic, some diet. Okay, tea. Tea is great to support heart health. There's so many beneficial effects, whether it's green, white, or black. The plant compounds called flavonoids, catechins, and quercetin, they also support cholesterol absorption and synthesis, and then also inflammation and healthy blood vessels. So they've got some placebo-controlled trials. If you notice on the bottom right of this slide, I include a lot of links to the PMID, which is your PubMed ID. So you just go on PubMed and punch these numbers in, and you can pull up all these related studies that I'm referring to. Okay, so let's round out. We've got about 15 more minutes, and of course, we'll stay as long as you guys want to answer all your questions at the end. But now let's sort of move into metabolism changes with aging and how that impacts weight loss. Because I really want to, give women the good news. They're not doomed. You're not going to be trapped, or you're not going to be stuck in a gaining weight as you age. there's things you can do to mitigate. So your metabolic rate is what changes the most as you age. It makes up the predominant of your total energy needs per day, 60 to 75%. And your fat-free mass, everything that's not fat, right, primarily your muscle tissue, is going to be the major determinant of your basal metabolic rate. So obviously, maintaining muscle mass is key. Women in general have a low BMR than men, just the way that our bodies are made, right? And BMR is going to significantly decrease with age and a sedentary lifestyle. So after age 20 is when, you know, evolution's like, you're not really you're sort of, you know, getting through reproduction, because we used to reproduce at much younger ages. But after age 20, you're going to see a 1 to 2% drop per decade in your BMR. So what do we know about maintaining a healthy weight as we age? Well, we know that NEAT, which is the calories you burn, that's not your, you know, planned exercise, your non-exercise activity, your lifestyle movements, we know that it can vary up to 2,000 calories a day among adults of similar size. So you may know someone who can't sit still, right? Think of someone who fidgets all the time. They can't sit still. They're constantly up and down. Their NEAT levels are going to be a lot higher than someone who doesn't really move that much. They tend to sit in the chair. They don't fidget. They prefer sedentary activity. So that's going to be a key factor that we can control as we get older. It decreases with age, right? If you look at some of the science around it, you'll see that older adults burn around a third less calories of NEAT compared to younger individuals. And that has a lot to do with just moving around less. Okay, so if you look at this chart that I included on the right-hand side, your physical activity level of your job, what you do throughout the day, is going to be a big determinant of your NEAT of calories. So chair-bound, the fewest, all the way up to strenuous activity, right, up to 2,300. And this is one of the reasons why when we had the body bug, right, the device that you put on your arm and you measured energy expenditure, I actually measured my calories burned in my steps. And it showed me how low it was, and it actually explained my weight gain as I got older. And so what I did here on this slide is I incorporated a treadmill desk, right? We used to have one in the office, at the corporate office, until our neighbors down below complained about the noise. But I incorporated this treadmill desk into my home office and started walking. And I walk around 5 miles a day on a treadmill desk while I work, and it increased my NEAT levels, if you will, by over 400 calories a day. And that's one of the ways that I am able to manage a healthy body weight as I get older, is through NEAT. Now, I'm not saying you have to do this, right? Because there's a lot of different ways you can build NEAT into your daily routine by moving more, but it is something to think about as most people are working from home in a sedentary job. Okay, this is probably going to give you the most hope, if you will. And this was a classic study that was done in what's called diet-resistant individuals, okay? And what that means is these were individuals that said, I can't lose weight no matter what I do, right? They were obese subjects who reported eating less than 1,000 to 1,200 calories a day. They said, I don't eat that much. Many of them were on thyroid medication. They were being treated with thyroid meds. And no matter what I do, I can't lose weight. There's something wrong with my metabolism. And so what they did with these 9 subjects here, is they actually brought them into a lab and they measured their metabolism. They monitored their energy expenditure. They also monitored their intake, and they also collected how much each of these subjects reported eating. Okay, so follow me along here. What you're looking at is you're looking at calories on this vertical axis here, subjects 1 through 9. So in red is their total energy expenditure, reflects their metabolism, if you will. So notice subject 1, their data point in red. Do you see it? What's that around? That's
3,
above 3,000 calories, right? Okay, good. Now, the second one is 2,800. Okay, what's the lowest one? What's the lowest data points you see in red?
2,000.
Neil?
2,000.
Around 2,000. So the scientists were like, okay, check. Nothing's wrong with your metabolism. Nothing was wrong with anyone's metabolism. As a matter of fact, all of them checked out to be within 5% of their predicted values. Nothing was wrong with their metabolism. They all burned at least 2,000 calories a day. Okay, they then asked the subjects, would you please record everything that you consume? They actually worked with a dietitian, they got trained to record their food, etc., and report back to us. How much are you eating in black? The first subject in black said they ate how much? You guys see that?
1,200 maybe.
1,200. Okay, second one.
Yeah, somewhere around 600.
What's the most anyone reported eating?
1,500.
The highest data point in black.
1,500.
Okay, in black. Great. So you guys are following along, right? The most anyone reported in black is 1,500. What's the lowest anyone reported eating in black?
500.
Okay, 550 or so.
Yeah.
Okay, researchers are then, okay, let's actually determine how much you are actually consuming. Okay, so that's the data point in blue. So subject 1 says, I eat 1,200, and in blue really consumed how much?
33, 34, 30, yeah.
You guys following?
Yeah.
Write me a note in the chat if you're following along. How many calories is this person off by? Okay, now keep going. Subject 2 said, I ate 700 and really ate how much, Neil, in blue?
Yeah, about 28.
Okay,
28.
another, this person was always also 2,000 calories off. Okay, let's look for the most accurate person in the study. What did you say is the most accurate person in the study? So you're looking for the closest numbers between black and blue.
Yeah, it looks like a subject 4.
Subject 4, right? I would agree.
Yeah.
So subject 4 said, I ate around 550, 600 calories and really consumed how much in blue?
About 1,200, maybe 1,300.
Okay.
Must have been
So
been a very tiny human being, though, to my point.
So the most accurate person in this subject of people who said they could not lose weight no matter how little they ate, the most accurate person was off by over 100%.
Yeah.
And if you look at the study, you read the study and you look at the age ranges, it ranges from 17 was the youngest subject all the way up to 53, with the majority being over 30, closer to 50. So what do you take away from this, you guys? What's the takeaway? One, most people, 99.999% of people don't have anything wrong with their metabolism, their BMR, right? They move too little, right? Too little. There's nothing wrong with their metabolism. What's the second, Neil, what would you say is this another takeaway?
Well, they underreport, obviously. I mean, this is a sad, and by the way, if you look at a study, I actually have one of my lectures, it shows the more overweight you are, the more you underreport. You know, so, just to be able to admit what you're really eating, and if no one sees you eat it, it doesn't count, so you don't record it. I mean, there's all kinds of things that, you know, that cause this, but I think the most important lesson for everybody, and of course, I've been crazy about this for, 30 years. You don't damage your metabolism by dieting. It'll come back. Yeah, it'll slow down while you're dieting, but it'll come back. And then all of this here, everybody wants an excuse, and this is proof positive. This one and many, many other studies since then are proof positive that people underreport, and they do, and all you've got to do is eat less calories than you burned in order to lose weight.
So to Neil's point, is people think they're eating a lot less than they actually are. And, you read the research, all these studies on underreporting, a lot of them will say people aren't doing this on purpose, right? They don't have the awareness, maybe it's portion sizes. So as fitness professionals and nutrition coaches, we can help our clients, right? Not underreport, become more aware, be more diligent, become more knowledgeable about food intake, and we can free them from the thought that there's something wrong with their metabolism, right?
Yes.
Just if there's nothing wrong with you, you're fine. Let's figure out a solution. Most likely has to do with your food intake, and let's incorporate some more movement into your daily routine and get you working out more or taking more steps per day. So you can see here that, obviously with aging, you're also going to get decelerating muscle mass, and that's accelerated with menopause and a sedentary lifestyle. We already said that. Well, what does that do in terms of your quality of life? Well, it's going to increase your risk of falls, fractures, and functional disability, which means your quality of life is going to deteriorate. And we know that, you know, the RDA is too low. It's way too low. And there's so many signs that are saying, listen, we gotta fix the RDA for protein, especially for older individuals. We know that there's a whole body of research that shows when people consume amounts of protein higher than the RDA, they maintain more muscle and bone, right? And so we know we don't want people to become, you know, disabled in terms of not being able to move around and complete their days of, you know, the activities of daily living. And we know that maintaining your muscle tissue throughout a lifetime is a cornerstone of healthy aging, which is one of the reasons why Neil came up with the concept of play span, right? Staying active as long as you're alive, doing the things that you enjoy. And so what can we do with aging? Well, you got to know about anabolic resistance to a certain degree. We know that with aging, your body resists the impact that resistance training and protein has of building and maintaining muscle tissue. Some studies show that, you know, older adults require more protein, up to 40 grams, to have the same muscle synthetic response than younger individuals who consume 20. And we know that the per meal dosage of protein to maximize that muscle protein synthetic response is around 0.18 to 0.2 grams per pound of body weight, for those of you who like the numbers and would like to calculate it for yourself or for your clients. So in terms of healthy aging and muscle, you need higher amounts of protein. And I like optimizing things. I don't like minimal, I like optimal. So I tend to go towards the optimal levels. Okay, Neil, this is from the latest edition of the Practitioner Dietary Supplement Reference Guide and Whey Protein. So Neil, I'll let you take this away.
Yeah, but it shows you just, you know, how our body builds protein and breaks it down every 4 hours. That's how that old 4-hour rule. In 1930, scientists discovered the 4-hour rule of how body breaks down protein, breaks down your muscle, and then it builds it every 4 hours. That's got a 4-hour cycle there. Well, if you miss a meal after 4 hours, you can make it up somewhere else. No one argues that. But that's why the athletic world, you want to take advantage of it when it's going down, put in protein, it goes back up, right? And resistance exercise makes it go back up. So when you look at what happens here with normal protein synthesis and breakdown, we're even. We have a muscle balance as we grow. We actually synthesize more protein as we get all the way up through puberty. Right after puberty, we stabilize. And then in your mid-20s, late 20s, we go the other way. And we go in the 30s, you're now going the other way. You break down more protein than you build because, again, the human being never had to be here after that. So that's when everything changes. It's sad to think that after puberty, old age sets in, right? But you offset that with adding resistance to our muscles. We add that and the body goes, oh, shoot, I got to get bigger again, right? So it works, but it doesn't work without protein. If the 4-hour cycle goes down and you're breaking down muscle, right? And you never eat, you're just going to shrink and die. So obviously at some point protein's got to come in. And the reason we say every 4 hours is ideal because you're taking advantage of when you're nutrient sensitive at that point. Boom. And over time that can make a difference. That's why we like to say ideally 4 hours, no big deal if you don't make it that soon, but ideally every 4 hours. And this really helps with the older adult especially. The difference is that those lines up there show you the difference of a protein synthesis in an aging person versus a young person. There's much more protein synthesis in the young person versus the aging person. That's really the gap. So we try to make it up by taking more protein because we're, become resistant. And at the end of the day, to put a picture to it, no one dies of old age at like 98 years old looking like Mr. Universe. At some point, you're going backwards. Okay, so we do have to figure out, how to stave that off. And that's what we do with the right amount of protein.
Okay, very good. So as you get older, you need more protein, and you got to keep resistance training. You got to keep lifting weights, right?
Yep.
So, and I just wanted to add this slide in for you guys as for your reference, especially if you're going to go and download the slides from the website when we post it. But we choose whey protein for a reason. There's a lot of reasons why. If you look at the table here from, I believe this is either a textbook or a review paper, but if you look at the protein type, you know, including, you know, vegetables, plant sources, animals as well, you're going to see that whey across the board is superior, right? It's got high biological value. It's rapidly digested. It's the richest source of essential aminos. It's got the greatest dosage of leucine. Leucine is what turns on. It's called the trigger of muscle protein synthesis. It's low in lactose, right? So less than 2 grams of lactose per serving in ours. And it's a convenient way to meet higher daily targets. It's convenient, whether you have a shake or you put it in yogurt or oatmeal or whatever. So we use whey for a reason. And the final thing I want to talk about before we wrap up is creatine for women. And creatine for women, there's a huge review paper that just came out by the International Society of Sports Nutrition. And creatine for women has a lot of benefit, not just muscle-wise, right? But of course, we're not going to talk about, you know, any clinical benefits that may have. But from a muscle standpoint, well, what can you gain? Well, strength, power, speed, and muscle mass among women and elite athletes with creatine use. Among postmenopausal and older women, if you read the sections of this particular review paper, it doesn't make you gain fat after 1 or 2 years of supplementation. And you've also seen improvements in functional tasks, right? Functional tasks like getting up off of a chair, you know, short walks, strength and muscle mass, and attenuating bone loss. So there are some applications for creatine in women beyond muscle, also going into quality of life and functional independence. And the benefits on muscle and bone occur when combined with resistant exercise. So you've got to keep training. You have to keep training. And that's a great reason to keep training. It's safe and it's in healthy individuals. That's been well established, right? It doesn't cause all these different things that people think it causes, like dehydration, cramps, kidney problems, etc., in healthy individuals. And it might actually have a benefit in terms of hydration, because it does draw water and fluid into your cells. So I sort of summarized the section of the review paper. I actually just took the direct quote right here, how beneficial creatine can be across the lifespan for females with little to no side effects, the main side effect being some water weight gain while you're using it. Do you want to add anything to that, Neil?
No. And the water weight gain is desirable because intramuscular.
Absolutely. Okay, so I thought I would share, you know, what my typical weekday is as a female post-menopausal dietitian mom, right? Like, what does my day actually look like? And this is, to be fair, this is a weekday. So just to give you some background, I do eat less during the week so that I can eat a little bit more during the weekend. It just fits my lifestyle a little bit better. I can have a martini on, like, tonight. And I'm still okay. So if you look at the breakdown here, I just did this really quickly this morning and threw it into, you know, from my food log into this spreadsheet. You can see at breakfast time what I eat. I have coffee and cream every morning. I have some kind of berries almost every morning, or some fruit. And then this is just a little turkey breakfast wrap, if you will. And you can see if I didn't add the whey in red, I would only put me at 10 grams of protein. Well, I already know, based on the calculations we shared, that that's not enough, right? I'm trying to get to 1 gram per pound of my lean body mass. So I'm trying to get to around 100 grams a day. And I'm trying to get to around at least 22 or so, closer to 24 grams per meal. So me doing a little chocolate whey with peanut butter flavor packet, which is what I'm obsessed with right now, I can then get to 36 grams, right? And then lunch, I almost always have a salad. Humans are creatures of habit. You are too. I am. I almost always have, and I don't like to cook, believe it or not. So I typically get bag salads, all those different variety of bag salads. And I throw in extra veggies with broccoli, do a little grilled chicken, a little mandarin oranges to help absorb the iron in the spinach. And then of course I have to have a little chocolate because, you know, I'm a woman. So a little mini Milky Way, and I get around 26 grams right there of protein. That's good. And then come snack in the afternoon, you know, I tend to get a little bit of an energy dip. So I like to do some crackers, a little cheese, which I enjoy, a little crunch and sweet to offset the salty crackers. And you could see 5 and 8 grams right there. 5 and 3 is 8 grams just from the food. That's not enough. So what do? I add an amino boost, which gives me 12 grams of protein. It's low in calories and I like it. I enjoy it. So that allows me to get to 20 grams there. And then at dinner, it's just a normal meal. This is just sweet potatoes cut up in the air fryer, which tastes like French fries because it's air fryered with a little olive oil, chicken, green beans, and another piece of chocolate. And then I have tea in the evening, which is no calories. So at 1,419 calories, I get 107 grams of protein. I cannot do that I could do it through other foods, but this is what I enjoy and it's convenient because I just mix the stuff up in a shaker bottle. And as I walk on my treadmill desk, that's what I do. 107 grams of protein is what I get. I only get 590 grams of calcium. Now, there are some days that I have a Greek yogurt. When I do, I get 12 to 14 grams of Greek yogurt. I add whey protein in there to mix it up to get it to that. But for the most part, that's about my average calcium intake in a day, 590. Well, I'm doomed. I'm going to get osteoporosis. My mom did, right? So I know that it would happen to me if I am not wary of my calcium intake. So what do? I supplement my intake. And then you can say I do pretty good on fiber, 29 grams a day, right? You're supposed to get around 21, 25, but I'm very cognizant of my food choices. Right? You can see there's fruit and veggies sprinkled throughout. So that's my typical day. I fill in the gaps where I need to. And then of course, at the very top, I do my over 50. I take the calcium once a day. I take the omega twice a day for anti-inflammatory. And of course, all the other things like brain health, heart health. And then I do vitamin D3 3 times a day because I know what my blood levels are. And I know I'm trying to get over 40. Like what Neil said. So again, do that with your doctor to determine. So I'm not telling you what to do, right? We always say this is not medical advice. This is what I do. You should talk to your doctor about your vitamin D levels. But this is essentially, I live what we talk about. This is the place span. This is down below, getting my multivitamin to fill the gaps to reach the RDAs, getting the calcium and omegas, getting some from my diet. And then when not, I get it from the omega-3 to get my EPA and DHA, and then getting to a gram per pound of lean body mass of protein. Once again, I could do that with food, but that would increase my calories, which means that I can't eat chocolate, and I don't want to give up my chocolate. Sorry, just saying. Okay, so that is my typical day, just to show you. So just to summarize it, you know, obviously for women, we are the superior gender. Neil, don't walk away because I got to get your feedback on this.
I got you.
Neil will tell you we're the superior gender as well, right? We can reproduce and feed our babies, our offspring. So we need different nutrients based on our lifestyle, age, and activity level, and consuming the recommended amounts, the RDAs of key nutrients at each stage supports optimal health and development. As you can see, it's pretty difficult to do through food alone, right? It's really hard to do through food alone to get to those RDAs. Our changes in metabolism do not prevent weight loss. Yeah, it's more difficult. Yeah, you might gain more body weight around your midsection if you do gain weight, but that doesn't mean you're a prisoner of your metabolic changes or of menopause or your age or anything else. There's plenty of women who end up maintaining their body weight or even getting leaner as they age. Right. And then the last key point here is adequate protein, resistance training, and, really eating well, eating a wide variety of foods, protein, and I'm a fan of dairy and even, low lactose dairy alternatives as well to help with age-related muscle loss and healthy aging. So there you have it.
Nice.
That's women's health.
Nice.
That's women's health.
And I'll be right back. I got 30 seconds. I have to run next door just for a second. But I will tell you this, and Kat, you'll take the first questions, but I'll be back to. I'm sure they have no
Okay.
questions for me after that pre-zone. You nailed it. I mean, that was. I mean, I can't tell you how much I learned, and I thought I learned enough from my wife, right? But I learned a ton right here. But what Kat said, and I know any of you that have been around me long enough, I have always said the superior gender is female. I know a lot of guys out there are going to be pissed off at me for saying that, but that is no question in my mind. Okay. You know, the things that they endure, the things that they have to, go along with to be able to, be able not just have a child, but nurture the child and work and do all those. As my wife, she had an equal job with me. We were always like that, Kat too. So, and do all those things together. There's something very special about the female genome, that somehow we're missing. we make it up by being tough guys, right? Pretending we're tough.
That's right. Do you need to go run and do something?
Yeah, just real quick. I'll be right back. Get your questions going though.
Okay.
Be right back.
Okay. All right. So if you guys have questions, we would love to take your questions. We'll stay as long as you would like. Thank you for being here the entire time and enduring our Zoom adjustments. Okay, I'm reading the chat first, and then I'll read the Q&A. If you can put it in the Q&A box, that would be great. That way we can save those and share them. So let's look at the questions here. Julianne, thank you for letting me know that you could hear me. Good afternoon, Carlos. Hey, Sarah. Carlos asks, what micronutrients does 50 MB have compared to the others, specifically for over 50 persons? So a couple key things, Carlos, is that you're not going to have any iron in your over 50. Women don't need to consume extra iron in the form of supplements after 50. And then males as well, there's some health risks with consuming supplemental iron after 50 for males. So we leave that out. And then there's some of the B vitamins that tend to, their needs increase, like B12 with age. So higher levels of some of the B vitamins in there. Those are the main difference. You're still going to get choline. You're still going to get 1,000 international units of vitamin D in there as well. Nora says, yeah, they don't know how many calories they actually consume. That's where we can really be very, very impactful with our clients. It's helping them become more aware of their food choices and really educating them around nutrition. Okay, Safaya, I hope I said your name right, Safaya. For women who gave birth, any specific diet to minimize postpartum depression? No, so a specific diet to minimize depression, I would definitely make sure that you're getting your omega-3s, because omega-3s has intricately tied to your brain health. And there's some clinical trials that have shown some impact on omega-3s. So I would say eat at least 8 ounces of fatty fish per week. And if not, supplement that. And then make sure you're getting a variety of those foods that we talked about, because all the vitamins and minerals work together to optimize brain health. And then if you can, as well, Sophia, make sure your vitamin D levels are at least above 30. Vitamin D is also important for mood, outlook, immunity. Get some sunlight early in the morning if you can do that as well. That will help boost and maintain melatonin production. And because, sleep deprivation is also a key factor for mood, anxiety, and depression. So make sure the best you can get enough sleep. I know I didn't sleep a full night for almost a year breastfeeding my babies, so I know that can be difficult. And then if you're really down, like there's no shame at all whatsoever in getting some help, right? There are certain tools, therapeutics that can be used to help you get over that hump. I hope that helps. Okay, Deborah, how should you take creatine when, and how much for women over 50? So Deborah, there's a couple ways you can do it. You can do it low dose, which is like 3 to 5 grams per day, every day. Low dose, and just take it with maybe your pre-workout shake, or shake it with a meal. Or if you wanted to like super saturate your muscles and get like high levels in your body right away, you can do the loading phase, which we talk about, which is 20 grams split into 4 doses, split into 4 or 5 gram doses a day for the first 5 days. So that's how you would take creatine. And then of course, resistance training. Okay. If I would give you an ideal time, what would you say? I would say take creatine after your workout as part of your daily routine, right? To maximize your absorption.
If you're going to take one dose, then it's always post-workout. But don't forget, you can't skip a day. So on the days off, you just got to take it again, one dose with a meal.
David Sandler says, awesome. Is that you, Dave? Is that you, Sandman? Were you on? I'm glad you came. Thanks for coming. I appreciate that.
Very cool. There's a guy that's smarter than all of us here.
Yeah, exactly. So we always hire the smarter than us people. So okay, so Elizabeth Perry, hey Elizabeth, asks if even if you don't gain weight, won't your body distribute the weight differently? Even if you exercise, isn't it an uphill battle? Second question, if you're still working out hard, isn't active MV the better choice?
Okay, so let me answer the
okay,
first
go ahead.
one. Okay, I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Because I experienced that, and male or female, you experience that as hormones change. Where you store fat is going to be different. There may be 1 or 2 days where you're storing fat because your caloric intake was above it, so it kind of goes to a different place. And over time, over a year, even though your energy balance was even and you didn't gain any weight, fat is now gone from your legs to your stomach. That's all it's done. It has you're leaner somewhere else and fatter somewhere else, but your body fat's the same. And that is that is exactly what happens to most people as they age. So that was a very astute question that someone just asked. Because that is
Elizabeth, she always asks good questions.
At the same time, you're really not putting on body fat. It is just getting redistributed throughout the days when you're up and when you're down and when you're up and when you're down, and it starts moving it around that way. So that is what's happening. So you are correct.
Yeah, and I want to just say that I've experienced that as well, Elizabeth. And I will just say that, part of me looks at it like, I'm thankful to have a little extra because it is, because it is sort of your nature's way of trying to maintain your estrogen levels. So I know it seems like an uphill battle based on what you're saying. And sometimes it's a matter of, shifting your mindset. We get to live in these bodies, and even though it changes with age, it doesn't necessarily mean it's worse. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right. But,
okay.
But don't let that discourage you. Is Elizabeth, right? Who asked the question? Don't let it discourage you saying you can't lose it, because you can't. Just because you still lose it and get shredded. I can take any 65-year-old lady and walk her on stage in a physique contest, and she will fit right in. Anyone. Trust me. I've done it, so that's not a problem. It's just painful because there's a lot of work to do, right? So you got to make that decision, where are you willing to sacrifice in order to get a certain amount of body fat? That's what it comes down to.
Yes, exactly. Okay, so second question that Elizabeth's asking, if you're still working out hard, isn't active MV the better choice?
That's kind of a tough question. If you're really working out hard 5-6 days a week, you're under 65, okay, because of the iron. You got a good dose of iron in there, and that would be the only reason. You got high D. Yeah. You got 1,200 IUs of D there. So, you could probably beat me up on that one, and I would give in to you and say yes.
Yeah, I would say, at least 5 days a week, an hour intense exercise. You got to be doing, right? Because intense exercise does increase your requirement for iron.
And you're maybe somewhat calorically restricted to a certain extent because you're staying lean. So that does make some sense.
Okay, so Carlos, I already answered your question.
And by the way, I have a very difficult time admitting I'm over 50. So I don't really even want to take that over 50.
See, this is me. I'm not 50 yet, just in case anyone cared or was curious. I'm not there yet, but I'm looking forward to it. I'm bring it on, honey. Okay, Julianne wants to know, I'm 54 years old. I'm over 50. My over 50 vitamins are 50 micrograms. Tell me what you're talking about, Julianne. Which nutrient are you talking about so we can answer your question? How much creatine daily? Hopefully you heard my answer to this. So Neil has has a dose based on body weight. Do you have that offhand, Neil? I always say 3-5 grams a day.
The better answer is just take 5 grams a day.
5 grams a day.
Yeah, you know what? If you're small, if you're
That's
under 150, if you're under 150 pounds, you could probably get away with 3.5 grams a day, right? You know, about 3 grams a day. You'll be able to get hit the maintenance level right around, you know, the 20th day or so, and then you can kind of hold it there. So I think that for sure that you'll be totally fine with that.
Yeah. Okay. Hi, Kat. What role, if any, do probiotics also play in women's health? They definitely play a role. And, you know, just to be completely transparent, I didn't dig into the research on probiotics for women's health specifically for this masterclass. Maybe I should have, but as you can see, we had a ton of content. They definitely play a role. It's so individual based on your specific diet, your health conditions, etc. So it's hard for me to give you a definitive answer on, you know, what exactly and what aspects of women's health. Maybe Neil, you could add to that. I mean, I don't know. I would have to dig in a little bit more.
Yeah, to your point, I can't separate men's health versus women's health. I just do know that, to your point, diet and the environment you live in. I mean, you live in environments where you've got pollution outside, and you've got it changes the microbiome colony in your gut. And let's face it, we're now discovering that pretty much our gut controls everything in our body, our immune systems and everything else. So you're looking at probiotics right now they're actually surpassing almost all the dietary supplement sales now. They're catching up with multivitamin minerals, or catching up with omegas, because, you know, we've learned so much about controlling that colony in our intestines to get them to good guys versus the bad guys, right? And that's why we make a very neutral probiotic, you know, with the 8 strains there to help kind of move it over to the good guys. So I think everybody, I mean, listen, if it fits into your budget, I would take one every day. Take one every single day, you know, for the rest of your life, just like you take a multivitamin mineral. I mean, that's what I would say for everybody now when I look at the research today. And that's a neutral one. Don't get me wrong. There's the clinical reasons for taking very special strains that can offset all types of things that are happening because the gut is controlling that. And we're out of that. We're not in that business. We're strictly in the business of just trying to straighten out the colony that you have today.
Okay, Julianne wants to know, I have had clients who said their doctors do not want any soy. Is this a myth? What do you think is the issue? The only thing I can think of that's evidence-based would be interactions with medications, that they would not want to be taking soy. Otherwise, it's a myth around soy. There's so many health benefits to soy. And I've cited some studies in there as well that you can take a look at. So Siobhan, you also asked about foods, again, not having hot flashes. These are soy isoflavones. So whether that's boiled soybeans, or it's soybeans that are made into tofu or tempeh, or even chickpeas, tea has some. So those are some of the things that could help with hot flashes and night sweats. But Neil, can you think of anything why a doctor would say
there's
no soy?
reasons. The problem with many doctors, in fact, I would say the vast majority of them, they read conclusions of studies. They do not read or tear apart the study that came to the conclusion. They don't have time. They're too busy, you know, shuffling people through their rooms and prescribing drugs. So what they end up doing is reading that. So soy causes cancer. Because it mimics estrogen, and you don't want that extra estrogen, and your cancer, you know, so that's kind of how that all got there in the first place, is that, you know, soy, the isoflavones in soy could actually, you know, mimic certain things that would lead to cancer. And of course, we know that's not true of the solid information. Asian women who the soy is the predominant part of their diet, they almost have no breast cancer rates compared to the US.
Yep.
So you can just compare the obvious, right? But at the same time, I mean, listen, if you've got a very high risk of breast cancer in your family and everything else, then you do want to talk to your doctor, but they got to dig in. I'm not sure I would talk to maybe a doctor that doesn't know about nutrition, because they're just going to read that little conclusion thing and come up with an answer that's just to get you out of the office quick. You know, so you really want to talk to some specialists that really understand that soy can actually be preventative. You know, if you're using the right amounts. I'm not talking about your total diet, right? You know, and there's something different about the American woman versus the Asian woman too. So, there's a genetic component that goes along with that. But no, there should be no reason in the world you'd be hesitant against soy for 1 or 2 servings a day.
Okay, cool. Shirley says, how are you eating too many candies? Are you like, what does that mean, Shirley? Can I show you them? They are so small. I'm going to show you them right now.
You saw the calorie amount. It wasn't that much.
It's like a little mini, look. That's how I get my chocolate fix, just in case anyone cares. And
See,
yes, I can eat 2.
Yeah, if I do that, I'm going to eat the whole bag. So that's just doesn't work for me. I just got to avoid it completely because I'm a chocoholic. Trust me.
He is definitely a chocoholic, but I don't have as many calories to spare as Neil does. So
I don't have that many anymore. Trust me. I found my I can't believe my maintenance is like 2,200 nowadays. Really?
Ooh.
2,200 when my maintenance was
Wow.
6,000. When I was a 265-pound athlete, my maintenance was 6,000. Now it's 2,200.
Oh, yep, exactly.
Getting
I mean,
old
mine is
useful.
when I'm mine when I'm sedentary, you guys, it's 1,600.
Yeah, pretty bad.
1,600, really low. So Shirley says, I meant I couldn't do that. Oh, she's with you,
Oh.
Neil. She couldn't do that. What you?
You're like me. You can't do that. I got you. I got you.
Okay. Julianne had a question about vitamin D. She says, what's she say? I'm 54 years old. My over 50 vitamins are 50 micrograms of vitamin D. So that would be 2,000 international units.
Yeah.
So that should be sufficient, but the only definitive way of knowing that is getting your blood tested. So that would be the only way. Okay, so that's the QA. Does anybody else have any more questions? I know we're here past the time and we appreciate you guys being here. So let me just check the chat box real quick.
Kimberly Zachary was on. I just saw a note from her.
Hi, Kimberly.
Hi, Kimberly.
Chat.
Now there's a superstar mom and
very super
athlete right there. Yeah.
Okay, vitamin D, what protein? What protein do you recommend as a meal replacement? Always eating on the go. And so I'm looking to meal replacements instead of opting for fast food, Nora asks. Good, Nora. That's exactly what I do is I used to travel pre-COVID a lot. And so I would take whey in a baggie with my shaker bottle and my backpack when I traveled. And I would just have that. And I would also have nuts. Like that would be sort of my on the go, instead of going for fast food. Or the other option you can do when I'm home, I like to do the Lean-MR, which gives me a little bit more fiber, 6 to 7 grams of beta glucan, right? Which not just only has weight control properties, support, but also has the ability to help support healthy cholesterol levels. So go with whey or Lean-MR, depending on which one you like the best. I like the whey smooth because of the flavor packets. They tend to give me more variety, but that's just me.
And on that note, both of them contain whey protein. Lean-MR is 100% whey, and so is Whey Smooth 100% whey. So you're in good shape. It's just one has other stuff in it, right? Lean-MR as a meal replacement, Kat was saying, is great for satiety, filling you up.
Yeah, exactly. Especially in the afternoon when you maybe get that sweet cravings, etc. You can just add the stuff that you like it. Calcium-rich beverages, right? To get more calcium, etc. Okay, Kimberly. Hi, Kimberly. Thank you for being here. We haven't seen her in forever. She did say hi to us, Neil.
Good.
Eileen says, I was just diagnosed with osteoporosis. I'm advised to take the medication Prolia. Any thoughts on the use of these drugs? I don't have a thought. Only because I would have to look and see what it's like. And I would say that, the drug, it probably helps mimic what estrogen does, which is to help with bone deposition. But in terms of diet, I would say still reach your 1,200 milligrams a day through your diet and or supplement.
Yeah, and I 100% agree with you, Kat. So definitely use the drug as your doctor has prescribed it, but at the same time, hit your number. Hit your number of calcium. If you have to take a supplement, take a supplement. Let your doctor know you're taking it, but I'd be shocked if they said don't, obviously, but let them know.
Yeah, exactly. We love you back, Kimberly. Hope to see you soon. Deborah says, how do you figure out how many calories you should really consume in a day with exercise? Well, our online program will do that for you.
Yep.
So if you go online and log into dotFIT.com, you can create a profile if you don't already have one, if you're not working with a trainer. If you're in gym working with a trainer or virtually working with a trainer, they can set you up with an online account and you just plug in all your information. And that calculator will help determine it for you.
It's all free.
So that's the
Go ahead
easiest
and go
way.
out there and crank it out. Take you 7 minutes and you'll know everything you need to know about yourself.
So that's a bit of an exaggeration, but we know what you mean, Neil.
I meant calorie-wise.
Okay. Yeah, calorie-wise. Okay, so I hope that helps. Deborah, there's other ways you can do that. You can monitor everything you eat, every single morsel, weigh everything out, add it all up and see what you eat to maintain your weight. But obviously starting out this way is much easier, and then tweaking it and adjusting it from there. And then I'm going to check the questions one more time to see if there's anything else. Okay. Shirley said, thank you, got to go. So, okay, so she sent me an email, and if any of you have any questions, please don't hesitate. Some of you may have already shot me an email, which is great. You can see Neil's there, mine is there. And we're probably going to do men's health next month. Right, Neil?
Yeah, as long as I have
Probably.
enough time to put it together.
Yes, I know. You take a long time.
We'll
So
see.
look out for the recording on the website. We'll post that up later today along with the slides. And if you guys need anything else, don't hesitate to reach out. And thank you for being here and doing all that you do. So happy Friday.
Happy
Stay
Friday,
safe.
everybody. And Kat, thank you very much. It was hugely enlightening for me. I needed that. Appreciate it.
You're welcome, Neil. All right. Bye.
See you later.